you just want to focus on more neuromuscular capabilities. So being able to know where your neck is in space. So like you don't want to just focus on straight up stiffness. You want to consider your neck to be a sensory organ. Your neck tells you a lot about where you are in space. If your neck is weak, it can also lead to tightness. So neck tightness and neck weakness go hand in hand, but neck tightness is not the same as neck stiffness. So in terms of a rehab strategy, you don't want to increase neck stiffness per se, but you do want to work on things like neck strength, because neck strength will actually help to alleviate the tightness and the tension, which causes a lot of the proprioceptive issues, as well as a lot of the like the dizziness and visual sensory issues, and a lot of the headaches. So typical strengthening protocols rely on working on what's called the deep neck flexors. So that's your typical chin tucks. So pulling your chin back and then lifting your head up. So if you're lying supine on your back and you put a little towel underneath your head, so you fold it up so that it's in fours, so it's about yay thick. You put your head on it so that it's just resting on this towel. You want to tuck your chin so that you're actually giving yourself a double chin. You can't really see it because of my beard. I'm trying. You give yourself a double chin, and then without letting your chin go, you lift your head slightly off the towel, because you still want your hair to be touching the towel, and you just lift slightly up like that, and then you hold it, because that's strengthening these muscles in here. Now these deep neck flexors, which are actually underneath your trachea, they're in behind your trachea, because they lie flat on your vertebrae, they are very proprioceptive. The closer a muscle is to your vertebrae, the more proprioceptive it is, the more it tells you about where you are in space. So that's why you want to be working on those ones. If you have a lot of tension back here in the suboccipital region, those muscles are what cause a lot of the headaches, and they cause a lot of the visual issues, the ocular motor side to side, the skipping that happens in people's eyes. Those muscles back here contribute a lot to that. These muscles in the front, if they're weak and dysfunctional, it makes these muscles back here tighter. So by working on these guys in the front, so like I said, you're lying on your back, face up, you tuck your chin down, and you just slightly lift the back of your head off of the towel that's behind your head, so that your hair and your head is still, you can still feel it there, but the weight of your head is being held. And you hold it for 5 seconds, and then you let it down back to rest for 5 seconds. Then you lift it up for 5 seconds. Then you put it down for 5 seconds, lift it up for 5 seconds, etc. You do that 5 times. As you get better at it, you want to increase the amount of time you're able to hold for. So you go from 5 seconds up to 7 seconds, up to 10 seconds, up to 15 seconds. The goal is to be able to do that for at least 30 seconds. So this is just an isometric strengthening protocol for the deep neck flexors. Another thing you can do then is work on your lateral side. So muscles like your scalenes, your traps, those types of muscles on the side. So the same thing, you want to lie down on your side. Using the arm of a couch I find is good, because you want your head to kind of be in a neutral position, so you're on your side. And then you just lift up, unweight your head off the couch, and you hold that for 5 seconds, and then put it down, up for 5 seconds, etc. So these are just isometric ways to strengthen the neck. That strengthening, as you do that over time, that may flare your symptoms while you're doing it. If they do, that's probably more of a good sign, because it shows that by aggravating or working those muscles in your neck, you're actually affecting change, which shows in the symptoms that you're feeling. So if you do that and you start to feel somewhat symptomatic, if your headaches increase, if you feel a little bit more dizzy, that's probably a good sign that your neck is contributing to those. And by doing this more and more and more, you're going to affect change and reduce those symptoms that are coming from the neck. So that's one piece, is the isometric strengthening. So you can do that on your back, on each side. You can also do it face down, where you're just lifting back up like this and holding. So those, as you increase in time, you're going to increase the strength. Increasing the strength will help to reduce the stiffness, and reduce the stiffness will help to improve the ocular motor function of your eyes, reduce your headaches, reduce the sensation of dizziness. But another thing you want to do on top of that, you can't just rely on the strengthening, the isometric strengthening. You also want to work on your neuromuscular control, which is your proprioceptive feedback. So, for example, there's a reflex called the vestibular ocular reflex, which is how your eyes coordinate with your inner ears. So if I'm looking at something, so let's say I'm looking right here at the camera in front of me, and I turn my head to the right and I keep my eyes focused on that camera and I turn my head back and forth like this, I have a reflex that's happening as the fluid spins in my ears to tell me that my head is rotating. It sends a signal to the muscles of my eyes as a reflex. It's very, very fast to keep my eyes focused on what they're focusing on. That's called the vestibular ocular reflex. So this is a very, very quick reflex, and it allows your eyes to stay fixated on a target while your body's moving in relation to gravity. Otherwise, if that reflex wasn't intact, everything in our visual field would be constantly moving up and down, side to side as we moved about our environment. But our reflex system is very strong, in which it keeps our eyes focused on a particular target as we turn our head side to side. The vestibular ocular reflex can be impaired following concussion, which can make things blur across your vision as your head moves. It can give you the sensation that everything is jiggling within your visual field. Many people have this when they go out and walk and run and things like that. So the rehab for that is typically side to side and up and down. And you gradually increase the amount of time that you can do that for, and then the speed in which you can do that for. That's a whole other topic. One other thing, getting back to the neck side of things, is that you have little sensors in the muscles and joints of your neck that tell you where you are in space. They also coordinate with your eyes, and that's called the cervical ocular reflex. This one is typically mitigated at slower speeds. So your vestibular ocular reflex is very quick. So as you turn quickly, it's more vestibular ocular reflex. But if you just focus on a target and turn your head really slow, so anyone watching right now, you can try this. Keep your eyes fixated on a target, turn your head really, really slow. You might notice that one side is harder to keep focus as you go. Like for me, when I turn this way, I find it harder to focus this way. And that's just because these muscles on this side are a little bit tighter for me. So that right there is the cervical ocular reflex. So if you do this slowly side to side and you feel dizzy with that, that's probably more issues with the cervical spine than in terms of vestibular. So something you can do to help work on that is look at yourself in the mirror, focus right on your own eyes, and then just turn your head slowly side to side, back and forth, and then up and down. Same thing. And if you do that every morning, every night, and throughout your day, even just pick an object in the room and just focus on it, turn your head side to side, up and down, that will help to reduce the dizziness, but also that's more neuromuscular control, and you're working on range of motion at the same time, which helps to reduce the tension in your neck, which will help to reduce the headaches and everything else. So I know a lot of you are at home right now and you're unable to get access to a clinic and stuff. That's like why I'm trying to give some more tips on that. So just for those that were watching at the start, what I was talking about initially was neck stiffness as a potential preventative measure against concussion, and the current question that I was answering right now was talking about different neck exercises which can help to alleviate the symptoms of concussion.